So, basically Hazbin Hotel's hell is actually an MLM for souls funneling all the way top to a babe chilling in the beaches of heaven. But in all seriousness, fellow minds, today we once again take a stab at explaining the enigmatic plans of Lilith Morningstar, Queen of Hell, with a new theory speculating and attempting to answer who she is, what she wants, and what she is currently doing and planning to do in the Hazbin-verse. What are overlords? What makes an overlord? Why is Lilith staying in heaven? And is it connected to the exterminations? And in fact, who informed Sarah of Hell's rebellion in the first place, which then led to the exterminations themselves? And how do these all fit into Lilith's master plan? All these and more, so come along as we explore the greatest MLM Machiavellian gigabrain cunning master plan of Lilith Morningstar brewing in the roasting fires of hell, here in mine mind. Alright, let me give some prefaces and speculated assumptions before we delve into this theory speculation. But first, before I do forget, thanks to Edgewood, a fellow mind who reached out to discuss this very theory I am presenting today. You will hear his voice from recordings of our conversation throughout this video. For this theory to work, we speculated that the exterminations are actually not as ancient as one would initially infer. Rather, that the exterminations are actually more contemporaneous, specifically near the disappearance of Lilith, so around 7 years, if not exactly 7 years. We are also assuming, with great reason actually, that Lilith is actually not as benign or benevolent as she was portrayed through paintings and the Hell intro story Charlie reads, and generally Charlie's own perspective on her own mother, as these are all obviously very biased and unreliable if you really think about it. So this theory is actually somewhat contradicting my previous video about Lilith insofar as I speculated in that video that her actual motives are actually to improve Hell's living standards. And throughout this video will be explained potentially who she really is and what her actual goals are. Without anything further, let's begin. With regards to Lilith, the first question that comes to mind is why we find her just chilling in heaven and staying there under some sort of deal. To explain this, we have to see how the extermination started in the first place, with Sarah. Yes, I in fact have come to believe that Lilith actually made a deal with Sarah and is the reason why the exterminations were begun.
And I think one of these deals was with Sarah. In exchange for the extermination of the sinners, Lilith is to not intervene.
Isn't it implied in the dialogue with Lut that her deal was actually with Adam or something tied to Adam? That's why when he was gone, his deal was, her deal I mean, was over. And now she has to return back to hell.
I believe the deal on Lilith's end was for the exterminations to not be intervened whatsoever. Now that could also extend to the people of hell. If the people of hell try to fight back against the exterminations, then that deal might be off. That might be out of the table.
Now, be it through subtly or indirectly giving Sarah hints of a hellish uprising, or directly gaining an audience with her to threaten her with an uprising, she used this idea to convince or even coerce Sarah to take up a deal. Either go to war with her and all of hell, or accept her proposal. She will not interfere and stoke rebellion, while allowing heaven to diminish hell's sole power by exterminating a portion of sinners every year. And, to ensure good faith, Lilith won't interfere in hell again. She will be confined to live in a secluded part of heaven. This way, hell's power is in check and Lilith just gets a little sabbatical. Or so that's what she wants people, and especially Sarah, to think. To understand further her motives for this theorized deal with Sarah and heaven, we must understand an earlier deal she made with various sinners of hell, the overlords, or rather, what would become the overlords.
So I was thinking that during their rule together, as hell gets more and more populated, I would think that Lucifer at some point was like being like very overwhelmed by all the tasks. Lucifer would have to delegate some of those tasks to Lilith. It was that Lilith was in charge of the deals with the devil. Now, Lilith couldn't be the only one to be handing out these deals, these contracts. She would need an elite group of individuals that she can task to give lowly sinners their contracts. What does it take to become an overlord? And what it takes to become an overlord, I think it's the accepting of Lilith's power, and I think they receive the overlord title by receiving some of her power.
Oh, I see. So you think that overlord is not it's actually technically a different class of sinners that are officiated basically through the deal with what we are presuming to be Lilith, instead of just normal sinners who are who so happen to be very powerful.
Yeah, that gave them that term colloquially.
Yes, this theory speculation would suggest that overlords are not just some arbitrary titles given to powerful sinners, but actually a position bestowed upon them by the Queen of Hell herself, Lilith, giving them a portion of her power to easily gather other souls for themselves. This power is bestowed specifically through a deal with Lilith directly, making their souls owed to and owned by her. Now you might ask, what does this have anything to do with her speculated deal with Sarah and heaven in this theory? Remember how soul deals work? Basically, the owner literally owns your soul, and through Alistair is specifically stated and demonstrated that the owner can do whatever they want with your soul. Now, what if an owned soul is exterminated with an angelic or carmine weapon? What happens then? We are led to believe souls are utterly destroyed and are basically reduced to nothing, but this may not be the case. Hinted in jokes in the pilot about being double dead, perhaps there is more to it.
So Lilith, under no suspicion, would have been able to make changes to the devil's deal to include the revoking of the repention, of sinners being able to repent, and also that the souls would be bound to the contractor, even after the recipient's death. So until something would happen to break these contracts or the contractors dying, Husker, Nifty, Angel, and others who are in similar situations cannot be saved and go to heaven. So Lilith would take Sarah's deal, Sarah unknowing about any changes. So then every year, Lilith would gain more power every year after every extermination. Yeah, go ahead.
The thing that I wanted to point out is in the if the means by gathering the souls to her by their death is by the means of the exterminations, wouldn't that not work, since the exterminations use angelic weapons which would destroy the soul?
I don't think necessarily. They just, if they die, they die, and their soul has to go somewhere.
But is the raw material of the soul still useful at that point? Because is a destroyed soul still useful? Can it still be useful in the person who made a deal with that soul?
I
I
think
guess
so.
that's the
I think so. Because if you're soul bound, then rather it being destroyed, it would just be transferred.
that's the only real thing that I had a real question about was, wouldn't the blades destroy the soul? So how can Lilith use them? But it is, I guess, possible that the raw material of the soul, even if the soul itself is no longer the person, it's technically destroyed, but it's still useful. Realistically, nothing can be truly destroyed, just transformed into other things and other materials. The souls of exterminated sinners, likewise, might just cease to be souls, but rather simply become and transform to the raw material for souls. And that this raw soul material, being owned by a sinner like an overlord, simply goes to the owner and is added directly to their power. Yes, I have come to think as well that whatever the deal Lilith has with the overlords and our speculated mechanics of how exterminated souls work sets up a system of funneling exterminated souls to her, increasing her power over time. So, with the aforementioned, we see that her deal with Sarah would indeed be very, very cunning, as heaven does the exterminations in an attempt to lessen the soul and manpower of hell. They unknowingly, however, are killing thousands or millions of owned souls that are eventually ending up fueling Lilith's power. This would be a great twist reveal that Lilith, with her knowledge of soul contracts and deals, through the overlords owned millions of souls, and that through her own deal with Sarah, tricked her into unknowingly funneling all those souls right to her as raw soul power. Now, before we get to why she's motivated to do these Machiavellian plots and schemes, let's first answer, or at least attempt to put forth some answers, for some little details. Under this theory, one might ask as well why Alistair very suspiciously enough vanished around the same time. Here are some possible answers. Speculating he was the most trusted or at least most useful overlord to Lilith, based on him specifically being chosen to eliminate specific overlords during his manifestation, she might have taken him to heaven with her to ensure he specifically does not die in an extermination. Or a more interesting possibility is that Alistair took advantage of Lilith's absence to try and look for ways to undermine her, making deals here and there and trying to gather prospects for his plans against her. But yeah, it is a great coincidence because they both specifically vanished around the same time, 7 years. Another detail to question is why exactly, under this theory, did Alistair, being an overlord of Lilith, kill other overlords and presumably being permitted by Lilith? Possibilities range from Lilith needing these overlords eliminated as they are starting to defy or even threaten her in some sense. These particular overlords being obsolete for her plans and needing them specifically replaced, to her just needing their souls to be funneled to her immediately, or perhaps even a mix of all of these things. Do note that it was very particular overlords, as Rosie Carmela Zestiel and the Blue Fire Skull overlord were not eliminated by Alistair, even though all of them existed at the time he massacred all those other overlords. Now, why Alistair has come out of hiding to Charlie's hotel may also be explained by him finally finding a prospect at a possible deal or deals within Charlie's hotel to use against Lilith, and him wanting to replace Lilith with Charlie to somehow nullify Lilith's deals. And of course, under this theory, Lilith also commanding Alistair to spy on Charlie for her, which could have still led to the aforementioned. But back to Lilith, why would she want to do all this in the first place? Her goal.
She wants complete and complete power. She wants to rule over everything. From from her conception, she was meant to be subservient to Adam. She wanted control for herself. She felt like that she was better than being subservient to someone like Adam. Yeah, I think ultimately it's rooted in Lilith's own creation. Like I said, this is based on conventional storytellings. In one way or another, Lilith would reveal herself, either to the general populace or just to Charlie, in whatever way, shape, or form. If she wants to come across as like oh, I missed you or whatnot, but deep down she's just plotting, or something like that. However which way, I think at some point she will reveal herself. And at some point she'll reveal her plan to rule over not only hell, but also over heaven as well. Basically starting in Armageddon on Earth so that all humans will die. Because whether or not they go to heaven or hell wouldn't matter to her, because she would be trying to rule over both realms. If Angel dies before Valentino, his soul just goes to Valentino.
Okay. And then eventually Lilith's plan, according to you, would be to basically consume the Overlord.
Yeah, kill them, take all their power and their souls, and ultimately gain enough power to basically amass her own army to start Armageddon on Earth. So basically to kill everything on Earth, because whether or not they go to heaven or hell wouldn't matter to her, because she would be trying to rule over both heaven and hell.
In this theory, Edgewood and I speculate that Lilith will indeed be revealed to be the exact opposite of the seemingly motherly, benign figure Charlie looked up to and was planning everything from the beginning to finally rule all of heaven and hell and all of the souls. As Edgewood pointed out, one could see this possibility by interpreting what little of the beginnings of Lilith we saw as her actually showing signs of being controlling, and that is what has driven her to rule hell, deal with souls, create a system of soul deals to funnel right back to her, and tricking Sarah into unknowingly empowering her through her soul funnel scheme. All to be queen of everything, so she need not submit to anyone anymore. Edgewood even speculates that she will plan to massacre Earth to drive all the remaining souls into either heaven or hell, which under her plan will both be her domain. And that is what Charlie will have to rally both heaven and hell against in the final battle of the final season. But yes, Lilith is in heaven as part of a trick deal she has with Sarah, which was the catalyst of the exterminations, having Sarah think she is weakening Hell's soul power and thus its ability to challenge heaven. However, unaware of the multi-level soul funnel scheme Lilith put in place to use the deaths caused by the exterminations to empower her, thus unknowingly empowering the Queen of Hell, who actually desires to be the queen of everything. So yeah, that's the Lilith MLM Soul Funnel and Queen of Everything theory. Thank you once again truly to our fellow mind, Edgewood, for coming to me with this interesting theory on Lilith. Truly a great thought by a great mind. But what about the rest of you, fellow minds? What do you think about this theory speculation? Do freely leave your own thoughts below. And may we meet again soon. You are all always welcome here in mine mind.